Okay, so let's just unpack this right out of the gate. We are looking at a date today for this deep dive that is, well, it's arguably one of the most significant moments in the entire history of the ancient world.
Oh, absolutely. It really is.
I mean, 586 DC, to a casual observer, you might think it's just another city getting sacked in a violent era.
Right, just another battle.
Yeah, but if you actually dig into the texts, we are talking about the fall of Jerusalem here, the total destruction of Solomon's temple.
It is absolute devastation.
Yeah.
And you really have to understand the stakes for the people living through it.
Uh-huh.
It isn't just a historical footnote where a city changes hands or a border moves like 5 miles to the west.
Yeah.
This is massive theological shifting point.
Because the monarchy ends.
Exactly. The monarchy ends.
Yeah.
The temple, which was the literal dwelling place of God on earth according to their belief, burns to the ground.
And everyone is exiled.
The elites are exiled. And it raises this terrified question for them. Has God failed? Has the covenant ended?
Right, because the whole promise was that David will always have a son on the throne.
Yes.
And suddenly, the throne is just gone. Usually when we talk about this massive event, we focus on the big bad wolf, right? We focus on the Babylonians, Nebuchadnezzar, the siege engines, the fire, all of that. But today we are focusing our deep dive on the man sitting on the throne when those walls came down.
King Zedekiah.
King Zedekiah.
Zedekiah is fascinating because he isn't your typical villain.
Mm-hmm.
He isn't a monster like his grandfather Manasseh,
Yeah.
the one who was famous for filling the streets of Jerusalem with innocent blood.
Right.
Zedekiah he's complicated. He's much more human and honestly much more frustrating.
That is exactly the vibe I got from the source material.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pulling from 2 Kings 2, Chronicles, and the book of Jeremiah today to really build out a psychological profile of this guy. And honestly, he just feels tragic.
Tragic is the right word.
But I also found myself really wanting to shake him.
I think we all do. But we have to be careful not to let the tragedy of his situation mask the actual failure.
Okay, so what's our mission here then?
Our mission today is to look at how political pressure and really the fear of what other people think, along with broken oaths, led to the total collapse of a nation.
So we need to figure out if he was evil or just spineless.
Exactly. And we need to ask if that distinction even matters when your city is literally burning.
Spineless is a pretty harsh word, but as we go through the sources, well, let's just see if it fits.
Let's see.
But before we judge the guy, we really have to set the scene because he wasn't supposed to be king, was he?
No, he wasn't.
This was never the plan.
To understand Zedekiah, you have to look at the family tree. He's the third son of the great reformer King Josiah. So he is way down the line of succession.
He's basically a spare.
A spare to the spare. But the geopolitical situation in the ancient Near East at this time is just chaotic. You really have to picture the map. You've got Babylon, this rising juggernaut in the east,
Right.
basically the steamroller of the ancient world.
Mm-hmm.
And then down south, you have Egypt.
The old guard.
Right, the superpower everyone already knows. And tiny Judah is stuck right in the middle. It's just a buffer zone.
So it's kind of like being a small house stuck between 2 giant gangs fighting for the neighborhood.
That is a perfect analogy. And Zedekiah isn't just dealing with local politics. He's caught between 2 titans fighting for global dominance.
Man, that is a lot of pressure.
So Nebuchadnezzar II comes in, and he conquers Jerusalem the first time around 597 BC. And he deposes the previous king, Jehoiachin.
Who was Zedekiah's nephew, right?
Yes, his nephew. So Nebuchadnezzar drags Jehoiachin off to Babylon along with all the elite citizens.
So the throne is empty, the smart people are gone, and Nebuchadnezzar's just looking around for someone left to run the shop.
Right. And he picks Zedekiah, whose original name was actually Mattaniah.
Okay.
And he installs him as a vassal. He's completely a puppet king. Nebuchadnezzar even changes his name from Mattaniah to Zedekiah, which is a massive power move.
Oh, wow. So changing his name is like saying, I own you.
Exactly. I own you, I name you.
Talk about a legitimacy crisis. I mean, hey, everyone, I'm your new king appointed by the guy who just conquered us and took your families.
Right.
That has to be so rough on your approval ratings from day one.
It was devastating for his standing. From the very moment he sits down on that throne, the people know he serves at the pleasure of Babylon.
He doesn't have that natural authority.
None at all. And this creates a major pressure cooker for him. He has pro-Egyptian factions in his court whispering in one ear saying, "Rebel Egypt will help us."
And then in the other ear,
He has the prophet Jeremiah shouting, "Submit, do not fight this."
and this leads to what the sources called the fatal mistake. Because Even though Babylon put him in charge, and even though Babylon is clearly the stronger power, Zedekiah decides to ghost them.
He does.
He pivots to Egypt. And looking back, it just seems suicidal. Why do that?
It's the classic gamble of the weak. He looks at Pharaoh Hophra in Egypt and thinks maybe the old superpower can save us from the new one.
Just a huge miscalculation.
Of the highest order. But he does it despite the fact that Jeremiah and Ezekiel are both screaming, do not do this. Submit to the yoke of Babylon. It is God's will.
But he ignores the prophets and goes with the politicians.
Always a bad move.
Right, but here's where it gets really interesting for me. I was reading through the notes on 2 Chronicles 36 and Ezekiel 17, and there's this detail about the treaty Zedekiah broke.
Yes, the oath.
It wasn't just a handshake deal, was it?
No, and this is crucial. This is the exact pivot point where a political blunder becomes a theological rebellion.
Okay, explain that.
When Zedekiah accepted the throne from Nebuchadnezzar, he swore an oath of loyalty. But the text specifically says he swore by God. He swore in Yahweh's name to the pagan king.
Wait, hold on. I want to make sure I get this right. Nebuchadnezzar, a Babylonian who worships Marduk or Nabu or whoever made Zedekiah swear by the God of Israel.
Yes.
Why would Nebuchadnezzar care about an oath to a God he doesn't even believe in?
That is a great question. In the ancient Near East, this was standard diplomatic practice. When you made a suzerain vassal treaty, basically a master-servant treaty, you called on your own gods to witness it.
Oh, okay.
Nebuchadnezzar was smart. He knew he couldn't bind Zedekiah by Babylonian gods, so he essentially said, swear by the thing you fear most. Swear by Yahweh that you won't betray me.
So he's locking him in using Zedekiah's own religion against him.
Precisely. He's thinking, okay, his God will keep him in line even if my army isn't stationed right there in the city.
Right.
So when Zedekiah breaks that oath to go flirt with Egypt, he isn't just annoying Nebuchadnezzar politically.
No, he's breaking a religious vow.
In Nebuchadnezzar's eyes, Zedekiah is a blasphemer against his own deity. And more importantly, from a biblical perspective, he is dragging God's reputation through the mud.
That puts a whole new spin on it, because if you're a neighboring nation watching this, you're thinking, wow, the king of Judah doesn't even fear his own God.
Exactly. Ezekiel 17 is furious about this. God basically says, you despise the oath and broke the covenant as I live. I will bring it down on your own head.
Because it makes God look weak.
It reveals that Zedekiah viewed God as a formality, just a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
He didn't view God as a sovereign authority who watches over oaths.
Right.
He viewed God as a tool for political maneuvering. If the oath is convenient, I keep it. If Egypt offers a better deal, I break it. It's the ultimate pragmatism.
So Nebuchadnezzar is thinking, this God of theirs must be a liar, just like their king.
Yes.
That is a massive PR nightmare for a monotheistic religion.
It really is. It misrepresents God's character to the nations completely.
Okay, so politically, he is a mess. He's betrayed his boss. He's betrayed his oath. But I really want to get into his head now.
Let's do it.
Because reading his personal interactions, he doesn't seem like a mastermind. The relationship between King Zedekiah and the prophet Jeremiah is, honestly, it's bizarre.
It is so strange.
It feels like a toxic friendship where one guy just won't listen.
It is one of the most fascinating dynamics in all of Scripture. You have the king, the highest authority in the land.
Right.
And the prophet, who at this point is the most hated man in the city because he's constantly preaching doom and gloom.
The officials want Jeremiah dead. They're calling him a traitor.
And yet the king keeps meeting with him.
Secretly, though. It's like he's embarrassed to be seen with him in public.
Yes, totally secretly.
Yeah.
Zedekiah keeps pulling Jeremiah aside into private chambers or the temple entrance. In Jeremiah 37 and 38, we see this whole pattern play out.
What does he say?
The king asks, is there any word from the Lord? He's desperate for guidance. He wants a miracle.
But then Jeremiah tells him the exact same thing every time.
Yeah.
Hey, surrender it to Babylon and you'll live. The city won't burn.
Over and over again.
And Zedekiah just doesn't do it.
He doesn't do it. He seeks the counsel privately, but he absolutely refuses to obey it publicly.
Why? I mean, if you believe the guy is a prophet enough to ask him for advice, and you're risking your reputation just to meet with him, why not take the advice? Is he just stubborn?
That brings us to the core of Zedekiah's psychology. And we don't even have to guess, because he actually admits it out loud.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Jeremiah 38.1, Jeremiah says, surrender, and it will go well with you. And Zedekiah replies, and listen to this, I am afraid of the Jews who have gone over to the Chaldeans, lest I be handed over to them and they abuse me.
Oh, okay, let's pause on that. He isn't saying I'm afraid of being killed by Nebuchadnezzar.
No.
He isn't saying I'm afraid of torture. He says, I'm afraid of the Jews who already defected. He's afraid of his own people making fun of him.
Abuse, mockery, humiliation. Remember, some smart people had already surrendered or been exiled earlier.
Right.
Zedekiah is terrified that if he walks out with his hands up now after dragging this out and causing all this suffering, those people will say, we told you so.
He is paralyzed by the fear of man.
He is terrified of the social stigma.
That is startlingly modern. It's like he's afraid of being canceled or ridiculed on Twitter, but with ancient world stakes.
Very modern.
So he's asking, is there a word from the Lord expecting some grand miracle that saves his dignity? But when the word is surrender and eat humble pie, he just can't stomach it.
Precisely. And this is where we really have to debate that evil versus spineless label.
Let's get into it.
Because a lot of people look at Zedekiah and think, oh, he's just relatable. He's conflicted. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I mean, I kind of felt that at first. He's got generals who literally threaten him and want to kill Jeremiah. He's got Babylon at the gates. He's got no good options.
Sure.
He sounds like a guy who just wants everyone to be happy.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, that desire to make everyone happy is a catastrophic failure of leadership.
Because he's the king.
He isn't just a guy trying to decide where to go for dinner with friends. He is the anointed king.
Yeah.
His actual job is to lead the people in righteousness, even if they hate him for it.
Instead, he fears the mockery of men more than the judgment of God.
Exactly.
So you're saying that being spineless in that position is actually a form of evil?
I am. It's a passive evil. There's this one point where the officials come to him and say, we want to kill Jeremiah. And Zedekiah says, he is in your hands, for the king can do nothing to oppose you.
Wow.
Think about that admission. I am the king, but I can't stop you. That is the very definition of a leadership vacuum.
Yeah, he completely abdicated his responsibility because he lacked the courage to just stand alone.
It's the nice guy syndrome that ends up getting everyone killed.
And it really does get everyone killed.
It does.
Let's move to that, because the text doesn't just jump from Zedekiah is worried to the end. There's a whole process here. And reading about the siege, it just sounds horrific.
We really can't gloss over the siege.
Yeah.
It lasts for about 18 months.
18 months.
Just imagine that. 18 months of being locked inside a stone box while the world's most powerful army builds siege ramps against your walls.
And the food runs out.
The food runs out completely.
Yeah.
The Bible describes it in gruesome detail.
I read the Lamentations part.
Yeah. Lamentations tells us that the hands of compassionate women boiled their own children for food. That is the level of desperation we are talking about here. The misery index is off the charts.
That is, I don't even have words for that.
Yeah.
So for a year and a half, Jeremiah is saying surrender and live, and Zedekiah is saying no while his people resort to cannibalism.
Yes. He holds out hoping for Egypt to save him or for some magical miracle.
But the miracle never comes.
It never comes.
And then 586 BC hits.
Yep.
The walls are breached.
The Babylonians break through. It is complete pandemonium. Fire, sword, slaughter in the streets.
And what does Zedekiah do?
He doesn't go down fighting. He doesn't stand in the temple and pray. He runs.
He tries to sneak out at night. It feels like a movie scene.
It's incredibly cinematic.
Yeah.
He and his elite soldiers slip out through the King's Garden Gate at night, trying to make a run for the Jordan Valley.
Where are they trying to go?
They're trying to get to the desert, maybe to cross over to Ammon, where he might have allies. But it's too late. The Babylonian army chases them down and catches them in the plains of Jericho.
Jericho. That's ironic.
Very.
That's where Israel first entered the land in victory, and now that's where the last king is captured in defeat.
The symbolism is potent. The whole conquest is being reversed. So they drag Zedekiah up to Riblah, way north of the country where Nebuchadnezzar is waiting.
This is the trial.
This is it. He's tried for breaking his oath. And the judgment, reading from 2 Kings 25.7, it is Game of Thrones level violence.
But this is real history.
Real history.
Walk us through it, because this is the moment the lights literally go out for the monarchy.
They bring Zedekiah's sons before him. These are the heirs to the throne, young princes.
Oh, man.
And Nebuchadnezzar orders them slaughtered right in front of Zedekiah.
Just to watch his own children die.
He watches the future of his house get wiped out.
Yeah.
And then immediately after, before you can even look away, the Babylonians gouge out Zedekiah's eyes.
Man, that is incredibly dark. I mean, usually we try to look for the silver lining in these historical accounts, but watching your legacy die and then nothing. Just darkness.
It's horrible.
It feels almost too cruel for a justice narrative.
It is brutal. But there is a profound, terrifying poetic justice here. You have to think about Zedekiah's life up to this point.
Okay.
For years, Jeremiah presented him with the truth. He presented him with spiritual reality. He said, see what God is doing. See the danger. See the way of escape.
And Zedekiah refused to look at it. He kept closing his eyes to the truth.
Exactly. He refused to see. He chose to be spiritually blind to the reality of God's word because it was uncomfortable for his social standing.
Right.
So now in judgment, his physical reality is forced to match his spiritual condition.
Right.
He refused to use his sight to obey God, so he loses his sight entirely.
Wow.
The very last thing he ever saw was the consequences of his rebellion, the death of his sons.
That is heavy. It's like the physical world finally caught up to the spiritual choices he had been making all along.
And notice what gets cut off here, his future. With his sons dead, there will be no King Zedekiah II. The Davidic line through him is severed completely.
So what happens to him?
He is hauled off to Babylon in chains of bronze, where he dies in prison.
Which brings us to the aftermath of all this. Because if the king is blind in chains and his sons are dead and the temple is burning, the average Judean must be thinking it's over.
That's exactly what they thought.
God is done with us. The promise to David is totally broken.
That was the theological crisis. It was a total collapse of everything they believed. But this is where the prophets, specifically Jeremiah, do something incredible.
What do?
They pivot the hope. They shift the focus entirely from the current failing king to a future one.
How so? Because the current king is an absolute disaster.
Well, look at Zedekiah's name again, the name Nebuchadnezzar gave him. It means the Lord is my righteousness.
Which is pretty ironic considering he wasn't righteous at all.
Extremely ironic. He was the anti-righteousness. But in Jeremiah 23, verses 5 and 6, right in the middle of this massive mess, Jeremiah prophesies about a future king.
Okay.
He calls him the righteous branch, and he says this future king will be called the Lord is our righteousness.
Oh, I see what he did there. He's using Zedekiah as a foil.
Exactly. Zedekiah is the anti-example. He shows us exactly what we don't need.
We don't need a king who fears men.
Right. We don't need a king who breaks oaths. We need a true son of David who will do what Zedekiah couldn't, which is trust God perfectly, even unto death.
So the failure of the earthly monarchy actually sharpens the focus on the future Messiah. It's like, okay, the human kings failed. We need something vastly better.
It forces their entire theology to shift. Before 586 BC, faith was all about the structure, the temple, the throne, the land.
The physical things.
Yes. But after 586 BC, those props are kicked away. Now, faith has to be about the covenant itself. It has to survive in exile.
That makes sense.
Without Zedekiah's failure and the subsequent fall, Judaism might never have evolved into a faith that could survive without a physical temple.
It's almost like the destruction was necessary to purify the faith. A severe mercy, as they say.
It was. But we also have to remember the what-if of it all. The sources strongly suggest there was a genuine opportunity for repentance, even very late in the game.
That's the part that really haunts me. Jeremiah kept telling him even during the brutal siege, it's not too late, surrender now, and the city will be spared.
Just imagine that. The temple didn't have to burn. The Ark of the Covenant didn't have to be lost forever. The walls didn't have to come down.
Wow.
If one man had just swallowed his pride and honored his word, history would be so different. But he let the moment pass.
He wanted to survive so badly. He wanted to save his dignity so badly that he lost everything.
That is the ultimate epitaph of King Zedekiah.
So as we wrap this up, where do we land? I mean, it's easy to sit here today in the 21st century and judge him. Oh, you spineless king, why don't you just listen to the prophet?
It is easy to judge.
Well, but if we hold up the mirror, where do we actually see ourselves in Zedekiah?
I think we see ourselves in the hesitation. How often do we know the right thing to do, whether it's an ethical decision at work or a difficult conversation in our family, but we just freeze?
Because we're afraid of the defectors. We're afraid of the critics.
We run the scenario in our head right. If I do the right thing, people might laugh at me. They might misunderstand me. I might lose my status.
Yeah.
And so, like Zedekiah, we choose the path of least resistance, hoping it all just works out magically. We hope we can just sneak out the back gate at night.
But it never works out. The safe path usually leads to the burning city.
It really does. Zedekiah teaches us that indecision is a decision, and that fearing man is a terrible trap.
And there's one final thought I want to leave everyone listening with today. It's something that really stuck out to me from the sources on that broken oath. We talked about how he swore by God to an enemy, to a pagan oppressor.
The oath to Babylon.
Yeah, and God actually expected him to keep it. This forces us to ask a really uncomfortable question. We usually think standing up to the bad guys is the righteous move.
But here the righteous move was to keep your word to the bad guy. That is the paradox. Zedekiah thought his enemy's badness gave him a moral loophole. Oh, Nebuchadnezzar is a pagan tyrant, so my promise to him doesn't count.
And God said, no, you gave your word. In my name. Keep it.
Keep it.
It flips our modern morality completely on its head. It suggests that integrity isn't about who the other person is or whether they, quote unquote, deserve it. It's about who you are and whose name you carry.
Exactly. If Zedekiah had simply kept his word to his enemy, he might have saved his entire city.
That is definitely something worth chewing on. Thanks for diving deep into this source material with me today.
Always a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, we will catch you on the next deep dive.